The role of cassette tapes in the 1979 Iranian Revolution. The 1979 Iranian Revolution stands as one of the most powerful examples of how communication technologies can shape political change. While revolutions are often associated with ideology, leadership, and economic conditions, the Iranian case demonstrates that media infrastructure can be just as decisive. In a society where official channels of communication were tightly controlled by the state, audio cassette tapes emerged as a revolutionary tool that transformed political opposition into a mass movement. For this reason, historians frequently refer to the Iranian Revolution as the cassette revolution. Political and social context. In the 1970s, Iran was ruled by Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, whose authoritarian regime relied heavily on censorship and surveillance. State-controlled radio and television promoted the Shah's modernization agenda, while silencing dissenting voice. Independent newspapers were shut down, journalists were arrested, and political parties were either banned or severely restricted. At the same time, rapid modernization had created deep social inequalities, particularly between urban elites and religious and rural population. Literacy levels varied widely across the country. For many Iranians, especially outside major cities, written political texts were inaccessible. Oral communication, sermons, speeches, and storytelling remained the most influential form of persuasion. This cultural context made audio media uniquely effective as a means of political mobilization. Ayatollah Khomeini in exile. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, who would become the symbolic and ideological leader of the revolution, had been forced into exile in 1964 after openly opposing the Shah's policies. From exile, first in Iraq and later in France, Khomeini continued to articulate a vision that combined Shia religious authority with political resistance. His speeches, recorded on the simple tape recorders, were not originally intended as a mass media strategy. However, they soon became the backbone of the revolutionary communication. These recordings were transferred onto cassette tapes and secretly transported into Iran. Once inside the country, they were copied endlessly, often using household tape players. Each act of duplication turned ordinary citizens into active participants in the revolutionary process, blurring the line between procedure and consumer of political media. The emotional power of the spoken word. One of the most significant aspects of the cassette tapes was their emotional impact. Hearing Khomeini's voice created a powerful sense of authentic and moral authority. His speech was calm yet resolute, and deeply rooted in religious symbolism, and framed the struggle against the Shah as both a political and a spiritual duty. For listeners, this transformed opposition into an ethical obligation. Unlike written pamphlets or anonymous slogans, the tapes conveyed tone, rhythm, and emotion. They allowed listeners to feel personally addressed. Many Iranians described the experience as if Khomeini were present in the room, guiding and legitimized resistance. This emotional connection helped sustain commitment even in the face of repression and violence. Mosques as communication hubs. Mosques played a central role in the dissemination of cassette tapes because religious institutions enjoyed a degree of protection. They were difficult for the state to shut down completely. Clerics regularly played the tapes before or after prayers, allowing large groups to listen together. This collective experience transformed private listening into a public act of defiance. Beyond mosques, cassette tapes circulated throughout bazaars, universities, factories, and private homes. Taxi drivers played them for passengers, and shopkeepers shared them with customers. This informal and decentralized network functioned as an alternative public sphere, operating entirely outside state control. Why the regime failed to contain the tapes? The Shah's regime struggled to respond to this new form of communication. Cassette tapes were small, cheap, and easily concluded. They could be hidden in pockets, bags, or under clothing. Most importantly, they could be copied endlessly without sophisticated equipment. Even if authorities confiscated a batch of tapes, hundreds of new copies would quickly replace them. Furthermore, cassette tapes did not depend on literacy, electricity grids, or centralized broadcasting stations. This made them resilient and accessible, particularly among marginalized communities. The state's traditional tools of censorship were ineffective against such a dispersed and participatory medium. Cassette tapes helped unify diverse opposition groups, religious conservatives, students, workers, and middle class professionals around a shared discourse and leadership. They synchronized protest messages, reinforced case slogans, and provided a coherent narrative of resistance. In moments of uncertainty, the tapes offered guidance, reassurance, and a sense of direction. Many scholars argue that while structural factors such as economic inequality and political repression laid the groundwork for revolution, cassette tapes accelerated the process and shaped its character. They transformed scattered discontent into coordinated action and helped sustain momentum during critical moments of confrontation. A precursor to digital activism. The role of cassette tapes in the Iranian Revolution highlights the political power of low-tech media. Long before internet and social media, cassette tapes enabled horizontal communication, bypassed censorship, and empowered ordinary people to participate in political messaging. In the sense, they can be seen as a historical predecessor to today's digital platforms. The Iranian Revolution reminds us that technology does not need to be advanced to be transformative. What matters is its accessibility, its emotional resonance, and its ability to connect people in moments of collective struggle.